Afternoon, Space Monkeys. Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm your host, Robert Durden, and this episode is about Joe Biden releasing his military budget. So his defense spending plan came out, I think, yesterday, and I've got the Washington Post article up, and surprise, surprise, Imperialist Joe Biden is increasing military spending. Now, it does spend more on what they call non-defense budget, which still is counted in the military budget, which they're touting that as some sort of victory over Trump, which I guess it is. But the entire military spending under Trump during the last year, I think it would be 2020, is $740 billion. And Biden is increasing it 2% up to $753 billion. So that's $13 billion more towards military spending. And that's the first point I want to make, which is disgusting. Of course, Bernie Sanders and Mark Pocan and Ro Khanna all came out and said this is absurd. This is way too much. We need to be cutting it. We have more than the next 10 countries combined military spending, and the vast majority of those are our allies. So we don't need to be spending, 5 times as much as the next closest country, which is China. So, it's ridiculous. What we could do is easily just reduce military spending and pay for a lot of other things domestically, which we never do, but that was what Bernie and Roe and Mark Pocan were arguing. Let's spend this on Americans rather than upping the military budget. So I'd like to run with that idea for a moment. That $13 billion extra, there's numerous things that we could do with it. We can nearly end homelessness. $20 billion is all the investment it would take to end homelessness permanently in America. $13 billion could be used in a bevy of different ways. But I'd like to read for you some things here from the Washington Post, and particularly the last paragraph. I'm going to point you to the verbiage and how it changes, and why it's so frustrating, because what they do is they talk about what Biden is going to spend his money on, and then they talk about in the last paragraph what he hopes to have money left over for. And if you notice, all the stuff that he has kind of built into the budget that they're not sure if they're going to have enough money left over to pay for it is all the things that we all want. All the stuff that we don't really want is the stuff that they have money set aside for. So I'm going to read this to you real quick. There are some good things in the budget. The plan proposes a roughly 23% boost to the Department of Health and Human Services, including more than $8.7 billion for the CDC in prevention, which is the administration says is the highest funding level for the public health and agency in 2 decades. That's good. Not enough. I mean, there's not enough money you could throw at Department of Health and Human Services during this pandemic. But we'll call it a victory because it's not just an improvement over Trump. It's also the best it's been in a couple of decades, including it with Obama. So I'll give them that. It would create a new federal agency under the NIH, the National Institute of Health, called the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, focused initially on innovative research on cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. I know Joe really does care about Alzheimer's because if they can get some information on it pretty quickly and get out some good medication, he might actually have a thought in his head. So the budget envisions nearly $69 billion in federal money towards addressing public housing. And you notice they said envisions there, so they're already starting to change the verbiage. A 15% increase from the amounts enacted in 2021 to help low-income families obtain access to affordable housing accommodations. Again, access to affordable housing accommodations. Got to be careful. They always want access. They don't want to give you everybody housing. And the Biden administration hopes to set aside a total of $14 billion, new sums across government to protect the environment, including efforts to reduce carbon emissions and research clean energy technology. So the Biden administration hopes to set aside $14 billion in new sums across the government to protect the environment, including efforts to reduce carbon emissions. Again, they add the efforts in there, not just we're going to reduce carbon emissions, we're going to make an effort. They leave themselves wiggle room to do nothing. And then research clean energy technology. The research is done. They're leaving themselves so much wiggle room in this last paragraph here so that they can say, hey, we hope to do all these things, and then they say, oh, well, we're going to maybe research the new clean green technology, and we're going to have hope to set aside a total of $14 billion when all's said and done. And here's my take on this, guys. They just upped the whole goddamn thing, $13 billion. How about this? if you have that built in there anyway, just say, we're going to keep it the same, or we're going to up it to 753, but we're going to guarantee you we're going to, do this towards the, Green New Deal. Something that has to do with installing wind turbines or solar cells across the country, something that's an actual step and a tangible goal, and doesn't say hope to achieve, doesn't say maybe we'll start researching it. It says, no, we're going to get, in the next 5 to 10 years, carbon emissions are going to get cut to this amount, and this is how much money we're going to spend on these technologies to make sure that it happens. We're going to, obviously phase out fossil fuels. That doesn't have to be said explicitly in here, but like there's so many things that you could say explicitly you want to invest $14 billion in, and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it by this time. But they don't say it that way. They say we're going to do these things for military spending. This is what's going to happen in the next year, and if we have anything left over, we'll give you $14 billion for some of these things and maybe research green technology. So that's what drives me crazy, because what they just did is they just increased the budget $13 billion basically arbitrarily. If you're going to do that anyway, you better goddamn make sure that we get some good green energy out of it, or something tangible like that. Everything that they want to talk about here at the end, like possibly building affordable housing, they say, oh, Biden envisions having this money to get affordable housing done. They never say Biden envisions giving all of these money to military bases and to in technology and all these like Raytheon and Boeing and all of these war contractors. They're getting their money. Biden doesn't envision that. They're getting their money. Money is allocated for the military. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But when it comes down to things that could actually help us, he releases a budget that says it envisions helping us. It hopes to have enough money left over to help us. So that's what drives me crazy about this. We spend so much on the military already. You should reduce spending and then just take the money that you're saving from the military budget and craft other legislation that actually helps the people, like some of the things I've mentioned just now. $14 billion, that's not a small sum of money. You can do some things with just that alone. So, and the other point is if you're going to move the budget up like this, and you're going to include things like infrastructure in the bill, because this is really a budget bill. The military budget is part of the budget, the whole budget. So if you're just going to include all of it in there and you're going to up the budget anyway, make sure you're spending money on the people and not on F-35s, not on invading new countries or creating new weapons. Like, Biden's already shown that he's willing to be more hawkish with Syria than even Trump was, more hawkish with North Korea than Trump was. Certainly not helping in Iran, even though he said he was going to get back in the Iran deal, which he and Obama crafted, by the way, but hasn't done that. So there's just spending money on bombs to drop on other countries, on people that we've never met and have never done anything to us. And that's our tax dollars. They don't come back to us. They go to the military budget. So, no, reduce the military budget, craft other legislation with the savings that can actually help us. I agree with Ro Khanna, with Bernie Sanders, with Mark Buchanan. I'm sure the squad will be tweeting about this. Most of the squad will probably say it's really bad and we need to reduce spending. And AOC will probably say something like, well, I think Biden should be able to spend more on the military because he doesn't curse as much and he wears a blue tie to work and he hasn't sniffed my hair a lot. So I thought he was going to sniff my hair a lot, so I think that it would be unfair to make a comparison between Trump and Biden, because Trump definitely would have sniffed my hair more, and Biden is definitely trying not to sniff my hair, and he wears a different tie, so I think he should be able to spend a little bit more on the military. And then everybody will laugh at AOC like we've been doing constantly for the last couple of weeks, because she's an utter sellout and she probably won't even stand up to Biden on something like this, which is a slam dunk. So I'm going to do at least one more episode later on today, guys, but I had to go over this. It went from $740 billion under Trump to $753 billion, an increase of almost 2% under Joe Biden. And even though there are some good things built in there, a lot of them are based off of what Trump was doing last year. So saying that there's an increase of 23% to, like education, yeah, that's good. I agree, that's good. But Trump had so little set aside for education that's not near enough. What you could do is do something like I would recommend, which is go 200, 300% of what Biden was doing and cut the actual military, the defense spending. Cut defense spending, increase in spending in healthcare, education, infrastructure, particularly green infrastructure, and you can easily do it. But Joe Biden is a hawk. He's an imperialist. He's a capitalist. So they're going to tout this as, him being fiscally responsible and shifting a little bit away from actual offensive wars to more like defense wars or defensive spending, which they'll define as however they want. And all those defense contractors are getting their money no matter semantically what Biden is saying about where the money is going or not. Just like with Yemen. It's not an offensive. We're not going to fund the offensive war anymore. We're going to back off that. But we will give the Saudis money just in case they need to fight a defensive war against Yemen, which is Yemen isn't fighting a war. They're having a genocide done against them. It's all semantics with Biden. So this military budget is shameful. I am glad that it is increasing spending a little bit in other areas, but they could do so much more. And this is exactly what's to be expected from the Biden administration from here on out. You can basically expect, like clockwork, that defense spending is going to go from 753 to something like 770 next year. It'll be 795 the year after that, and then we're over 800 billion before the end of the Biden presidency. Set your watch by it. But I've been wrong before. It's okay. It's okay to be wrong. But that's my prediction. I don't think we have any reason to believe that he's going to be any better than Trump on this stuff. So. Sorry, it's been a bad news kind of day, guys. Keep fighting the good fight out there. I'll see ya.